Hey y'all, well, how's your Thursday evening going? Caught me out here by this old storm cellar, you know? That's kind of a cool piece. I've got some pretty good memories here at this. Never had to get into it during a storm, even though a few come through. My biggest memory is cleaning fish on the top of this thing. And back then I couldn't even see over the top. I'm not doing much better now, am I? But many a white perch slab has been filleted on top of that old thing back in the day. I guess it was here when they got the house in 45. But that's a pretty big thing to have back then. I know I've talked to some aunts, uncles, and cousins that's had to crawl into that thing in a storm at one point or another along the journey. I had a good visit yesterday with Tim from the Daily Sentinel. That was really a cool talk. Felt he's from this area, and really it was just a couple old country boys talking about life and family and agriculture and all that good stuff. So we did have a good visit. I think that's coming out in the morning. Hope I didn't get misquoted. But as we was walking the place, I've kind of avoided this area because it was probably my biggest disappointment, moving back in here and cleaning up the brush and all. Everything, of course, is in disrepair. It's old. But there was some group of fellas living here for a little while in between Memaw passing and me coming back, that I was going to SFA, and they took okay care of the house inside. But this was really disappointing to me on this old cellar. They decided not to pay for a trash service, I suppose, right out the city limits here. And that thing, now it's about 5 foot deep in that rubbish in there. I don't know how in the world you'd ever really clean it out, to be honest with you. But it kind of broke my heart, really, looking at that. It's one thing to let a place go, but to just trash it like that reminded me of a conversation I had with my kiddos. And I'll never forget, you have those little memories along the way that just stick out among all the millions of them in raising kids. And it was one summer, I'd gotten the kids for the summer visit, and we was eating at Texas Burger there in Centerville, Texas, I believe it was. Mom and Dad had picked them up and was headed back to enjoy the summer. And we got on the conversation of stewardship, and all of them was really attentive to it, and I've not been the best one to always take care of things, but try your best, not to a point of being overly so. But I'll never forget, we walked out of that little restaurant, and Faith, oh goodness, she must have been 6, 7 years old, ran across the parking lot, and I hollered at her. You know how that happens. And she said, "But Dad, I got to get this piece of paper." There was a piece of paper on the lot, because we need to be good stewards. And I've never, ever forgotten that. And she probably don't even remember to this day. But just kind of hit me there. Stewardship, for me, having the opportunity to come back by this place and live on it and just take care of it. It's not mine. It's in the family still, but it's awful joy knowing how many years it sat here, vacant. And nature takes over pretty quick. But how often do we pass over things of value like that? And it's really not necessarily this old place and the dirt. And it's a connection to your roots and what made us. And I really cherish it. My cousin was sharing a story with me, and it's funny. It's twice in a day that a penny has come up. Isn't that something? And I know him well. He's the first one to bend over and pick up a penny on the lot or whatever, and stick it in his pocket. And he was telling me about a newfangled machine that they had where he works to process change. And this robotic device will kind of cull out any type of old slugs or Canadian coins, anything that doesn't fit the weight characteristics of different coinage. And of course you can recycle it or whatever, but y'all know how it is. We're all probably frugal people, but you see that old penny and it's got gum all over it or whatever, it's better off just throw that thing in the garbage and try to spend an hour cleaning it, isn't it? It just doesn't make any sense. Well, he was telling me that happens in that machine. And most of the times the pennies are kind of gummed up and nicked, and he just tosses them in the trash. Might be a handful of them, might be 2 or 3. And he and a fellow employee were cleaning the trash out today, and she noticed a penny in there and grabbed it. And he got to looking at it, and he said, I learned my lesson today about overlooking things. So this old robotic thing had done what a lot of us do and didn't see any value in something because it didn't have the right weight, or it didn't act the right way to conform to what a penny should be. And it tossed it aside, and he threw it in the trash. 1878 Indian head penny was headed to the Lufkin dump to be buried underneath some dirt and end its journey. 1878. He and I both talked through all the things that old penny has seen. How many times has it changed hands? How many pieces of bubble gum has it bought in its lifetime? Isn't that something? Laying right there in the trash, headed to the dirt. They saved it. Don't worry, they got it. So it lives on to, they can't buy a piece of gum anymore. Have to have a stack of them to get one now. So that was a cool reminder, and it really drove home to me the value of things and really understanding their importance. How about y'all? Y'all ever find a old penny and think about how many places it's been? No, I sure have. Just like that old tree there. It's seen a lot. But it's not necessarily the item, it's the thought of where we come from. I think that would be my main goal to spread and to celebrate and think about. Is celebrate your roots and the goodness, and let all that other rubbish go. It really don't matter at the end of the day. Well, let me do a roll call, I guess. I didn't do one last night, and or night before last, and we'll see who all's checking in, where y'all from, and what's going on. Let's see, there's Miss Donna Wilson. How are you, ma'am? Let's see. We got Caroline's on. Yeah? All right. Hey, Kathy, how are you this evening? And there's Helen. Yeah? I want a storm cellar. You don't want this one, I'll promise you. There's some booger bears down in this one. They'll just have to stay there. There's Patricia. How are you, ma'am? And Dorothy. Tried to burn a pile of wet leaves, huh? That probably didn't work out too good. I had a preacher used to say, if that didn't light your fire, then your wood was wet. Y'all ever heard that one? You have to get shut of those old wet leaves. We're going to talk about those old sayings one of these days. Y'all remember anybody ever talking about getting shut of? Got to get shut of it. Mama said that all the time. Yeah, isn't that something? All them old sayings. Uh-oh, I done blocked my screen off. That tells you it's not professional, right? There's Susan. How are you up in Oklahoma? Pennies from heaven, huh, Dorothy? That's all right. Hey, Ladina. How are you? Up in Central Texas as a area, not a town, right? There's Joyce from Kentucky. How are you? And Trudy, another one from Kentucky. Appreciate all y'all checking in. But I'm excited to see how bad I butchered it with Tim. He's gonna really have to have some writing skills to put together all my ramblings. I think he asked me, was I from Nacogdoches, and somehow I don't think I ever answered that question. But for clarity, and it's too late, I'm sure all the edit's done, but I actually wasn't. I was raised in Huntsville, but we came up here every weekend. But I moved here after high school, and my oldest son was born here in Nacogdoches. I got married here in Nacogdoches, and I have to tell you a funny story about that as well. I'm running a little long tonight, so I'll let it go. I got to have something to talk about later, right? that sure spoke to Mama's character. That was a good time. But so I consider a lot of my roots here. I do. Sure do, in this old place. But y'all have a good evening and be the light, and look for those pennies. They've got more value than you reckon. All right? And get shut of that wet wood. Y'all be the light. Have a good evening.